Hi everybody, Dan Illman, Matt Bernier. The DRFBets race of the day for Friday, December the 21st is a true skull buster. It's race number 3 at Gulfstream, 1 mile on the turf. It's a maiden special weight, lots of first-time starters, lots of horses trying the turf for the first time. We'll give you as much information as you need so you can head on over to DRFBets and access your 300% deposit match and start firing away with your new DRFBets account. Easy sign up, bets.drf.com. Here is the field. 2-year-olds going a mile on the turf. You can access free formulator past performances, a valuable resource with the pedigree information and trainer stats they have in formulator on the race of the day event page at drf.com. Download them, handicap along with us. We'll take the field in post position order. And Matt, the number 1 King Ottokar, it's too early to give up on this 20-1 shot on the morning line. He's a half to free Rose, a graded stakes winner on the turf, and he's coming out of a pretty live race.
He certainly is. Like you say, the pedigree is there, not only a half to free Rose, but the dam herself, she was 3 for 13 on grass. You brought up that live race. I know it was at 5/8 of a mile, but the winner and the runner-up, they've both been next out winners with mid-70 buyers. The 6th place finisher was the next out winner with a 69 buyer on dirt. I think there's plenty of reason to believe. A little bit of time off, stretching out to 2 turns, this one being by Temple City. I think there's plenty of reason to believe this one will improve. I picked him 4th. That inside draw, at face value, it's going to be nice because it's a short run into the first turn. I do wonder, is he going to get shuffled back a little bit?
That's really kind of the key, and it's up to Tyler Gaffalione to get this horse out of the gate and get him into the race. It's so hard to project a pace, and that's why we don't have a Timeform U.S. pace projector for this race. First-time starters, horses trying the surface for the first time. But stretching out 3 furlongs, we would think that this horse should show a little bit of speed. Bullet workout on the 26th might have him ready to at least show some early gas. And again, the 5 furlongs in the debut, probably a little short for him. An interesting price play. The number 2 is State of War, and this one is by declaration of war, a good turf stallion. He's 12% with his first-time turf runners. This dam has foaled 2 turf starters. Both of them have won, and this colt is a half to Seeking to Soud, who is stakes placed on a synthetic surface. You go deeper in the pedigree, there is a lot of dirt sprint ability, but in the immediate family, lots of turf, and I like the fact that Phil Serpes tried to get this horse on the grass twice.
Well, that was kind of what stuck out to me and why I'm most interested in this horse. I ended up picking him 2nd in here, but you see clearly the intention has been to have him run on grass all along, and each of those 2 starts have just been washed off. And the other piece that I'm at least intrigued with, he's running against good horses on the main track. So, and I recognize it's not apples to apples, but you still face good company in those first 2 starts. I think there's some ability likely in this field, but at the end of the day, he may have very well faced the best horses that anyone has to date. And if he takes to the grass, which again, the connections seem to think that's what they've wanted all along, you brought up the turf pedigree, I think he's going to improve. Is it enough to win? We'll find out.
Morning line favorites right next door. That's the number 3, Proud as Punch. And this horse boasts a truly international turf-flavored pedigrees by Kentucky Derby winner Animal Kingdom, who we all know could step on the grass. He's a half to Microchip, who is a Group 1 stakes winner in South America. This is a family of Group 1 horses in South America, in South Africa, and this colt has run well twice on turf, and I guess you could have excuses. That Kentucky Downs configuration, perhaps a little intimidating for a first-time starter, soft turf last time out. My main concern, though, Matt, is he hasn't figured out the gate just yet.
I was going to say, all you need to do is look at those short comments for each of the first 2 starts. Off slow in the debut, hit the gate at the start of the second one. He's taken money in each of them. He's going to take money again in this spot. The field as a whole from that Kentucky Keeneland race, rather, not particularly strong thus far. And the thing that I'm a little bit intrigued with, we can talk about pedigree and we look at it, and like you said, it's there on the bottom, particularly from down in South America. But this one is a foal to a horse called Kingdom's Gate. And Kingdom's Gate was 0 for 8 and only hit the board 1 time. So you do get to a certain point. The pedigree is valuable with the first-time starters, and the horse is trying something new for the first time. He's still lightly raced. I'm not saying he can't win this race, but I do think you get to a certain point and you go, well, your full sibling wasn't particularly strong, and I understand maybe your relatives were, but that doesn't mean that you're going to be. This is a horse I'm against.
I picked him 3rd. I will use him in multiple race wagers. I thought he ran okay last time out with that valuable 2-turn experience. Off slow, as you mentioned, 4 wide around both turns. Lots of changes for the number 4, Fed Fever. Blinkers off, listed as a first-time gelding, dirt to turf, sprint to route. George Weaver's done very well with young horses switching surfaces. As we take a look at this formulator fact, over the past past 3 years with 2-year-olds going from dirt to turf, Weaver's at 36% winners and a 389 ROI. I think this horse will show a little bit of speed even with the removal of blinkers, and I think it's a promising sign that John Velasquez takes the call, although I look at the pedigree, Matt, and I see a lot of dirt.
I agree, and that's why I was turned off by this horse. And keep in mind, he's already been gelded, and he's a 2-year-old. I mean, this is there's a number of things here that I don't know that I'm super thrilled about. Trying turf for the first time, the Fed Bizzes are only 1 for 13 first time on grass, and they had paid a ton of money for this horse early on. So you would like to think that they thought they were going to get something, and based on what he has done or the lack thereof on the racetrack, I don't know that I'm sold on his chances.
But I am expecting a little bit of speed. We do have that positive formulator factor to price. The dam a half, so the multiple stakes winning dirt sprinter, 5-star Mama. The number 5 is Traveling, who was dismissed at 40-1 in his career debut over Good Going at Belmont. And he's another one that just happened to catch a really live race. Blinkers go on for one of Chad Brown's former assistants looking for her first lifetime win.
Yeah, the winner that day, next out winner with an 81. The third place finisher, next out winner with a more pedestrian 63 buyer. But at least you know the race productive. Now, I wanted to see some running. This horse didn't pick his feet up in the debut. Blinkers go on, so maybe that's going to get this one into the run a little bit more. For what it's worth, the dam, she was a winner as a 2-year-old, so maybe you do have a little bit of precocity there, but she was more on the dirt sprint side, so I don't know that I'm necessarily sold about this horse overall and from a surface standpoint.
And the dam's also a half to a multiple grade 3 stakes winner on dirt in Japan. The 6 is Uncle Gregory. You have to respect the Uncle Mo's on any surface. He's just a super stallion. He gets 17% winners with all 2-year-old debut runners, 18% winners with first-time turf runners. The dam won on dirt. She's a half to a grade 3 stakes winner on the synth named Ice Bear. I didn't like the fact that this horse was a $90,000 weanling that actually sold down for $50,000 in June after breezing in 21 and change. This horse has been working steadily since the late spring, early summer.
Yeah, and you know, I think some people will look at it and say, well, 2 turns, that's not going to be a problem. He's got all these works into him. I look at it and go, I mean, they clearly wanted to run him before this. I can't imagine that the plan was to get him into training and have him not start for about 6 months. The other thing that I'll take note of, you brought up Uncle Mo. Look, he's very strong no matter what he does. I'm not concerned about that. Carlo Vaccarezza is a trainer. This isn't usually something he excels at first out of the box. I'd like to see a fair enough run from this one in the debut and then maybe second out.
Clint Maroon, the number 7, bred in Great Britain, just to all a turf pedigree. The dam was Group 3 placed in England on the turf. Clint Maroon himself is a half to a Group 2 placed runner in France by Oasis Dream, who wins 13% of the time with first-time turf runners in North America. Pletcher had to be disappointed that this race was washed off of the turf for the career debut, but at least he got a strong 7-furlong tightener. And we have a Pletcher formulator fact. Past 5 years with 2-year-old second-time starters moving from dirt to turf and sprint to route, 33% winners, a $2.84 ROI. This horse should improve on the surface switch.
I was going to say, this is clearly what this one is meant to be running on. Now, we'll find out. I would imagine you're going to get a pretty significant step forward here. The 2 turns I don't think is going to be an issue. For what it's worth, that half sibling that he's got, that Group Stakes placed runner overseas, she was only 1 for 10 overall, so it's not like she was a world beater. Now, again, it's more difficult to win races against Graded Stakes Company, but at the same time, I look at it and say, you know, I see some other interesting pieces here. Jose is listed as opposed to Johnny V. Johnny V rode this horse in the debut. You don't want to go too far into the weeds there, but it is something to take note of. I expect a better effort. I'll be curious to see what kind of price.
Intriguing first-time starter up next. The number 8 third edition goes out for one of the more underrated trainers in the nation, and that's Nacho Correas. And we have a formulator fact over the past 3 years. 2-year-old first-time starters on turf. Correas is 3 for 6. The ROI is over the moon, $15.53. This is a full to Maya Fleet, who won the Dueling Grounds Derby, a half to another graded stakes winner on the turf. A Fleet Alex not known for turf, but hey, if the full brother can win a stakes on the grass, this horse is bred, has a sneaky pedigree, and they could have found a spot at Tampa.
Well, that's the way that I looked at it, and I know you just go into Formulator and you look at Correas' numbers at Gulfstream over the past 5 years. They're not that good, 2 for 32 overall, but this horse was based at Tampa. You could have certainly found a maiden special weight race on the grass to run him in over there. Instead, you ship across the state to run here where there's more money to be had. You brought up the pedigree, and usually, again, at face value, a Fleet Alex, this is not a strength, but when the immediate siblings have excelled on it, I have no reason to think that this one won't. The only thing holding me back is when I see Real Story I see that American Derby a little bit longer. I see Maya Fleet. He won the Dueling Grounds Derby. That's at 1.25 miles, a mile and 5/16. I almost wonder if this distance is going to be a hair on the sharp side for him.
But this horse will be a price, 15-1 on the morning line. Social Currency, the 9, bred in Korea, is a son of Tis Wonderful, adding blinkers, and I can certainly understand why. After watching the debut at Churchill Downs, he seemed a little bit green at points, but I did like the fact that once he altered down inside late, it looked like he was running the last 16th of a mile and galloped out well. He finished ahead of 2 next out winners. This horse wouldn't be a surprise at all.
No, he did get a little bit of pace to run at in that race at Churchill, but the fact that he's gone 2 turns already, the blinkers on, probably needs that equipment. He took money that day as well. I think there are a number of things that can point to this horse and say, you know what, if you want to take a small shot against the shortest prices in here, I don't think he's going to be the favorite, but I think he's probably going to be in that 3rd, 4th choice range. I think he's interesting there.
3 first-time starters round out the field. The 10 is Krupi's Pizza Don, a $10,500 yearling who sold up for $37,000 in April. By Breeders' Cup Mile winner Artie Schiller, 11% winners, 2-year-old first-time starters, 12% winners, first-time turf. Other than that, though, not a ton of pedigree, and I don't usually think of the Kieran McLaughlin 2-year-olds excelling going long on the grass.
I was going to say, this to me feels like potentially a means to an end, probably needs a race, and maybe down the road he'll excel. This one is a half to a horse called Perfect Pitch, who was 1 for 4 on turf, so maybe you got a little bit there that can make you think that this one could take a step, but at the same time, I'm going to sit back and watch.
Juddmonte homebred, the number 11 Highway Flyer, goes out for Bill Mott by Quality Road, 14% winners, 2-year-old firsters, 11% winners, first-time turf runners. Dan was a Grade 2 stakes winner on the turf. Going back a long way on some of Mike Welsh's Clocker reports way back in the fall, it looked like that Bill Mott had this horse in company with Capla Temptress, who's an older, legitimate graded stakes horse. There have been some gaps in the tabs since then. I wonder if this horse needs a race, but something tells me that he could run a little bit.
I have to be honest with you, and again, this is probably reading a little bit too much into certain things. When I see Cruz listed as the rider as opposed to one of Mott's normal riders, it makes me think that this one may need a race before we see a step forward or see this one's best. But from a pedigree standpoint, that was kind of my thought. When I looked at this entire field, I thought maybe if I'm thinking long term, if I'm going to take one horse out of it, perhaps it's this one, because I think the quality is there, and obviously we know what Mott's capable of. But you combine the jockey with this 11 post, the gaps in the tab, I want to watch one.
Rounding out the field is the 13 Topsfield, and Topsfield's trainer, Brendan Walsh, is a very good conditioner of horse flesh. Doesn't really do well with these kind of horses, though. Past 5 years, 2-year-old first-time starters, going long on the turf in maiden special weight, only 1 for 26, a 70-cent ROI, and if you use Formulator just to go with first-time starters going long at a mile or greater, the numbers are actually worse. Add in the outside post, this is a worrisome position.
Yeah, it certainly is. You know, pedigree-wise, I don't really have much concern about it. Meadow Slipper, she was 3 for 9 on grass. You brought up the Mizzen Mass, 10.5% with the first-time turf. But boy, even if this is one of the more fancied and more highly thought of horses in this race, breaking from post 12 with that short run into the first turn, first time out of the box, got a lot of things going against you. You would have to assume, it's always something I'm curious to watch. When you see those horses go into the first turn, especially 2-year-olds figuring things out, it's almost inevitable that someone's going to fan about 15 wide, and unfortunately this one's probably going to be the one that takes the worst of it. Again, this is the kind of horse that I'll sit back and watch.
Dam's a half to a stakes place turf runner. She has foaled 3 turf winners to date. Let's take a look at our top selections. I think this is a fairly wide open race. I'm going to go with Pletcher with the experience of the 7-furlong dirt race under his girth. I like him stretching out slightly to a mile. I don't think the Oasis Dreams want too much more than a mile, but I think Clint Maroon's going to run well on the surface switch. He's 9-2 on the morning line. I'm going to go 7, 11, 3, and 9. Use all 4 of those horses in some form in multiple race wagers. You like the Correas Firster, good formulator fact, nice pedigree, big price.
And I just think it is interesting to note that the horse is stabled over at Tampa. They could have run him there. Instead, they ship over here, and they're going to take a shot with a little bit more money. Admittedly, maybe the distance is a little bit too short for him, whereas with some of these other ones, perhaps it might be pushing it a little. But I'll take a shot with him in a race that I don't have a real strong opinion. I went 8-2-7-1, but the horse that I am most interested in possibly going forward has got to be that Juddmonte horse, Highway Flyer.
Real fun race for Friday's DRFBets race of the day, the third at Gulfstream. Make sure you get down with a new DRFBets account. Sign up at bets.drf.com, receive a 300% deposit match. An approximate post time for race number 3 at Gulfstream on Friday, 1:33 Eastern. Best of luck.